Wind moaned through the rusted hulk of the Pripyat Ferris wheel. Abandoned apartment blocks stood like tombstones in the overgrown pine forest. Nicholas Kowalski held the Geiger counter steady. The needle was pinned to the red, every click a warning. Radiation was constant in the Chernobyl Exclusion zone, but it was not the real danger.
Rule 3. Never photograph any animal that walks upright. Not on accident.
The rule wasn't a suggestion. It was carved into the team manual. Break it, and you disappeared from the rotation.
Yes. Some of them walk upright now. I've seen them.
He had the trail cam footage that got classified. The Ukrainian government suppressed it within hours, but Nicholas had a copy.
I copied it. I'm going to describe it.
In the distance, a four-legged silhouette stood motionless at the tree line. It wasn't a dog. It was watching. Nicholas tightened his grip on the Geiger counter. The real count was the number of things in the zone that refused to stay dead. The field manual was a thin binder with a fading radiation trefoil on the cover. Inside, 6 rules were printed in bold red type. Rule 1, check your dosimeter every hour without fail. The zone poisons slowly. Rule 2, avoid stagnant water. Ponds and puddles hide concentrated isotopes. Do not trust their stillness. Rule 3, never photograph or film any animal that walks upright, not by accident, not under any circumstance. Rule 4, do not approach the Pripyat hospital basement. Do not even aim a camera in its direction. Rule 5, the wolves here show no fear. They are not predatory. They watch. Let them. Do not interfere. Rule 6, full decontamination after every exposure. Scrub until your skin burns. Then scrub again.
3 of these weren't safety protocols. They were warnings against something no manual should have to name. Every time I read Rule 4, my throat went dry. The hospital basement wasn't just off limits. It was censored.
The rules didn't explain. They only required obedience, and in the zone, obedience was the line between rotation and disappearance. On his 3rd day inside the zone, Nicholas was pulled aside by Alexei Bondarenko. The senior researcher's face was etched with decades of dread.
You've read the official rules. Forget them. The real ones are passed down in whispers from one rotation to the next. Rule 5. You will see wolves. They are not afraid. They watch. Let them. Rule 3 and 4 are the ones that will make you question your sanity.
And Rule 4? The hospital basement?
The question landed like a live grenade. Alexei's weathered face tightened, and for a moment he looked like a man staring into an open grave.
Stay away from it. That basement swallowed the dead in '86. Some of those bodies were never recovered. They're still there, and they're not resting.
You've seen them? The things that walk upright?
I've seen what comes out of that hospital after midnight. It wears a wolf's fur, but it walks like a man. It is something the zone built, and it answers to whatever is buried down there.
Alexei's voice cracked, not with age, but with the weight of a truth he wished he could unlearn.
Follow the rules. Don't ask questions. The answers are already watching you from the tree line.
A week after Alexei's warning, Nicholas was alone in a sector of dead pines. The forest held its breath, then released it with a low, collective howl. They came without sound. 3 wolves at the tree line, eyes like cold amber. They didn't threaten, they inventoried him, and he felt his own heartbeat become data.
I am not cataloging the wildlife. The wildlife is cataloging me.
Over the following weeks, Nicholas logged every encounter. He plotted the sightings on a digital map, and the dots formed an unsettling constellation.
They always converge on the hospital, 100 meters out, like iron filings to a magnet.
He showed Alexei the map, expecting confirmation. Instead, the older man's face went blank, a door slamming shut.
You see this? They're drawn to the basement. That's not random. Something is directing them.
The zone is full of patterns that mean nothing. You are a scientist. Do not become a conspiracy theorist.
But the rules exist because someone saw something. I need to see it too.
He mounted a trail camera on a ridgeline with line of sight to a game trail, not the hospital. Never the hospital, but close enough. By July 2019, the annual camera grid refresh was underway. The team fanned out across the ridgelines with fresh SD cards and reinforced straps. Nicholas knelt at the base of a gnarled pine. He angled the lens north, along a game trail that had shown heavy recent traffic. Oleksiy watched from the path, arms crossed. His dosimeter badge caught the light, but his real concern wasn't radiation.
You are sure about this location? It's awfully close to the old agricultural sector.
Nicholas assured him it follows protocol. No line of sight to restricted structures, but the words came out flatter than he intended.
Protocol is a fence built on paper. Out here, the only fence that matters is the one in your head.
Nicholas pressed the test button. The camera's infrared blinked once. Then the status light went dark. It was alive, watching. They marked the location on the GPS as 14C. 6 weeks of data would begin now. As they withdrew, a howl rolled across the valley floor, too deep and too long to be a wolf. Oleksiy didn't speak for the rest of the hike. His silence was heavier than any warning. 6 weeks of rain, wind, and feral silence passed. In late August, the team gathered to retrieve the data. Nicholas removed the SD card from camera, 14C, with the care of a bomb disposal tech. He slipped it into his chest pocket, feeling its weight. Back at the field lab, the data uploaded. A spreadsheet of triggers populated the screen. Camera 14C had 3 hits in a single night. Oleksiy leaned over his shoulder. The timestamp read 3 hours, 14 minutes, and 0 seconds. Then 3 hours, 14 minutes, and 18 seconds. Then 3 hours, 14 minutes, and 41 seconds.
3:14. The hour when the zone holds its breath.
Which camera?
When Nicholas answered, the older man's face drained of color. The name 14C hit him like a physical blow.
Delete that footage. Now.
But the room had gone quiet. Every eye fixed on the screen. Protocol demanded a review. Nicholas's finger hovered over the play button. They agreed to watch the first few seconds, just enough to verify the trigger. Oleksiy turned his back to the monitor. The video loaded with a shudder. A grainy, green-tinted clearing. Then movement at the edge of the frame. A quadrupedal shape entered from the right, low to the ground. It moved with a deliberate, almost unnatural gait. Halfway across the frame, it paused. Then it rose. Not the clumsy hop of a startled animal. Smoothly, deliberately, onto its hind legs. Oleksiy's hand shot past Nicholas and slammed the laptop shut. The screen went black, erasing the nightmare frame by frame.
Give me the cards, all of them.
We need to review it. Protocol demands it.
Protocol ended the moment that thing walked on 2 legs. This is classified under Ukrainian Defense Order 431. You have no clearance.
He swept every SD card from the table into a lead-lined pouch and sealed it with a numbered tag. Nicholas stood frozen, his mind still replaying the impossible geometry of the creatures rising. The footage was confiscated, but the image of that creature walking upright was burned into his retinas. He knew he'd find a way to see it again. Hours after the confiscation, Nicholas sat on his bunk with a tablet. He had not surrendered everything. The copy he made still lay in his possession. He inserted the duplicate SD card and the folder appeared. Cam 14 CO 314, MP4. The file size was small, but its gravity was immense. He pressed play. The screen filled with green static. Then the familiar clearing. Time code, 3 hours, 14 minutes, and 0 seconds. The creature entered. Same as before. But this time, no hand slammed the laptop. He watched as the quadruped rose onto its hind legs in a fluid, human motion. It stood a full 7 feet tall, its limbs realigning with a series of soft pops. The shoulders rolled back, and the head tilted, inspecting the camera. Then it approached. A forepaw lifted, and the digits splayed wide. Not a paw, but a hand with a thumb that curled around the lens housing. The image swung violently. For 3 seconds, the camera faced rough bark. The creature had turned the trail camera away, deliberately neutralizing the observation.
It knew what the camera was. It disabled it.
Nicholas replayed the last seconds. The hand-like paw was undeniable. The creature had not just happened upon the camera. It had come specifically to disarm it.
This wasn't an animal. This was something engineered, something with intent, and the hospital basement was behind it all.
Nicholas could not sleep. He replayed the 47-second clip until the frames burned into his mind. He froze a still of the forepaw. The thumb was unmistakable. It wasn't a paw. It was a hand.
The joint angles are all wrong for a canid, that metacarpal spread. It's designed for grasping.
He overlaid a human skeletal graphic onto the frame. The wrist rotation matched. This creature had fine motor control. A howl shattered the silence, not distant, but from just beyond the tree line close enough to shake the container. Nicholas killed the tablet's light and listened. Another howl answered, then a third. They were triangulating his position.
They know I have the footage. They're out there, circling.
He quickly uploaded the file to an encrypted cloud server, then removed the SD card and hid it inside his dosimeter case.
I need someone who can analyze this without the zone's eyes. Someone with genetics expertise.
The rules forbade sharing data, but the rules were written by men who hadn't seen what he'd seen. At dawn, Nicholas loaded the footage into a biomechanical analysis program. He began marking anatomical landmarks on the creature's silhouette. He placed a point on the shoulder, another on the hip. The software calculated the femur angle. It was not a quadrupedal stance.
That pelvic tilt supports an upright spine. This thing walks on 2 legs by design.
He compared limb proportions to every canid species in the database. No match. The hind limbs were too long, forelimbs too short. Then he ran the numbers against primate models. The match was closer, a gorilla's arm to leg ratio, but with a wolf's thorax.
It's not a wolf that learned to stand. It's something engineered to stand. The bones were reshaped.
Nicholas stared at the green outline of the creature's skeleton, hovering over the night vision frame. His scientific foundation cracked.
Need a geneticist. Someone outside the zone who doesn't answer to Oleksiy or the security services.
He opened an encrypted messaging app and typed a message to Dr. Kamil Novak, an old university colleague in Krakow, specializing in evolutionary genetics. The message read, Kamil, I have footage, morphology anomaly, canid primate chimera. Need your analysis. Cannot discuss here. He hit send, breaching protocol. The reply came within the hour. Camille's message was short, urgent. Nicholas, where did you get this? This is impossible.
This defies everything I know about mammalian evolution. The limb proportions alone, they shouldn't function. We need to talk in person.
They agreed to meet at his laboratory in Krakow. Nicholas told Oleksiy he had a dental emergency and took the first train west.
No one can trace this. This is the right move.
The genetics lab was a sterile universe away from the zone. Camille looked up from a terminal, his eyes bloodshot from a sleepless night.
I've been running preliminary models since your message. The forearm musculature is unlike any canid. We need to see the motion sequences together.
Nicholas handed over the drive. Camille inserted it into a secured system, and the air in the room thickened as the file loaded.
He's about to see what I saw. If he doesn't believe me.
The video opened to a green-tinted clearing and a time code of 3:14. The nightmare played in silence. For 47 seconds, the creature walked upright and turned the lens toward the trees. Camille paused the frame where the creature stood fully upright. He traced a line along the scapular arc.
This shoulder joint allows wide abduction. That's not canid. That's a hominid trait.
He advanced to the moment the creature turned, highlighting the pelvic tilt.
The ilium rotates forward, designed for an upright spine. This animal didn't evolve naturally.
Nicholas felt the clinical air turn to lead. Camille's voice dropped.
This is a chimera, a deliberate fusion of wolf and something else. The bones don't lie.
Chimera, not mutation, construction.
Camille overlaid a human hand X-ray next to the creature's paw on the light box.
The metacarpals are identical in structure. This wasn't a random radiation accident. Something guided the design.
Neither man spoke the next question aloud, but it filled the space between them. Camille pulled up a chart of mutation rates from the zone. It showed not randomness, but an accelerating pattern over generations.
This is not background radiation's work. Something is applying selection pressure, consistently, over 40 generations.
Selection pressure, not survival of the fittest, survival of the chosen.
Camille then explained that the rate of morphological change was far too fast for natural evolution. It was directed. But when Nicholas asked who, Camille refused to answer. Nicholas returned to the exclusion zone that same night, carrying the weight of Camille's silence. He went straight to the field lab and opened the mapping software.
Time to connect the dots. Where do they go when they think no one is watching?
He overlaid every wolf sighting and trail camera trigger from the past year onto a satellite map. The GPS points formed a radial pattern. He drew concentric circles around the Pripyat hospital. Every cluster touched or crossed the innermost ring, 100 meters from the basement entrance.
They all converge here, like spokes on a wheel. The basement is the hub.
Nicholas leaned back, staring at the map. The creatures were not just observing, they were reporting. And they reported to the basement. Nicholas began digging through declassified Soviet archives. Searching for any mention of the hospital basement, he found a grainy, yellowed photograph, a hospital basement corridor lined with black plastic body bags. The attached file was labeled Temporary Morgue, Pripyat Medical Unit, 126. Remains not fully recovered. He opened a classified memo from the Soviet Cleanup Commission. Long sections were blacked out. The visible text stated, "Due to extreme radioactive contamination, the basement was sealed. Recovery teams were unable to access 12 of 38 remains." A yellowed newspaper clipping from 1986 echoed the same grim fact. The basement was a mass grave left to the zone. Nicholas overlaid the basement floor plan onto his sighting map. The convergence wasn't just to the building, it was to the morgue.
The dead were buried there, and something kept them. The rules aren't about radiation safety. They're about not disturbing whatever is using those bones.
He now faced a choice: ignore the evidence and follow protocol, or find out what lay beneath the hospital. The door to the field lab slammed open. Oleksiy stood in the doorway, his weathered face carved from stone, each line a warning.
You've been digging into the hospital basement archives. That area is off limits for a reason. Stop.
He knows I accessed the records. Is he tracking every keystroke in the zone?
Nicholas closed the laptop, a slowed, deliberate motion that did nothing to erase the evidence Oleksiy already held.
I know you copied the card. I've known since you filed that dental report. They know you have it.
Yes, I have the footage. I need to know what's down there.
Whatever is in that basement has been directing the wolves for decades. You are a variable it doesn't control. If you approach, it will correct that.
A variable it doesn't control. God, what have I stumbled into?
I've seen what happens to those who ignore the rules. You won't make it to the basement door. You'll just disappear.
Nicholas said nothing, but his hand drifted toward the dosimeter case, where the duplicate card was hidden. Obedience could no longer be his default. That night, Nicholas packed a night vision scope and hiked to the ridge north of the hospital. A spot with a clear view of the approaches, he settled into a natural blind of fallen pines and aimed the scope at the dark mouth of the valley. The hours stretched, cold and silent. At 2:48 a.m., a flicker of heat crossed the green display. Then another. The shapes were tall, too tall for wolves. One by one, figures emerged from the tree line, walking upright on two legs with the smooth, unhurried gait of soldiers on patrol. Nicholas counted 5, their heads swiveling in unison. As if scanning the darkness, they moved in single file toward the hospital.
Not random mutants. A pack. A coordinated unit.
The lead creature paused at the hospital's broken fence, lifted its head, and scented the air. Then it gestured with a hand-like paw, and the others followed.
They use signals. Complex communication. That's not instinct. That's language.
The column veered toward the basement ramp and descended into the blackness. One by one, they were swallowed by the earth. Nicholas did not breathe until the last figure vanished. Then he slowly packed the scope, knowing he had now witnessed the reports. As the last creature reached the basement opening, it stopped. The head swiveled, and 2 points of amber light found the lens of the scope.
It sees me. It can see me through the night vision.
Nicholas froze, every muscle locked. The crosshairs trembled over the creature's face, but the eyes did not blink for a full 10 seconds. The creature simply watched him back, its posture unnervingly patient. Then, it inclined its head, a slow, almost formal dip.
It bowed. That wasn't a threat. That was an acknowledgement.
A pressure pushed against his chest, Not physical, but psychic, an overwhelming sense of being known, of being weighed. He scrambled backward, abandoning the scope on its tripod. Branches snapped under his boots as he crashed through the undergrowth. He didn't stop until he reached the main road, lungs searing. When he looked back, the forest was still, but the weight of that gaze clung to his skin.
It let me see. It let me go. The basement isn't a place. It's a jurisdiction.
Back in the field lab, he wrote no report. He simply sat at his desk until dawn, the decision made for him. He would never go near the basement again, but the physical retreat only deepened his archival obsession. He burrowed into leaked Ukrainian security databases, searching for reports the government had buried since the disaster. Under layers of redacted text, he found a document stamped with an emergency commission seal. The subject line read, Basement 126 Biological Assessment. Remains in Basement 126 exhibit anomalous cellular activity. Tissue samples show mitotic division inconsistent with postmortem decay. Recommend full containment.
Mitotic division. The cells are still dividing. The dead in that basement are not dead.
He pulled out the 1986 photograph of body bags and placed it next to the memo. The connection was no longer theoretical. The wolves were not mutants. They were vectors. The zone had weaponized the dead, and the creatures were its nervous system, its messengers.
The selection pressure Camille sensed. It's the dead. They're selecting the wolves, reshaping them to carry their will.
He opened the sighting map and overlaid the memo's reference to cellular activity. The basement wasn't just a morgue, it was a generator, pumping intention into the wilderness.
The dead are not resting.
Nicholas leaned back, the weight of truth pressing on his chest. He had uncovered the center of the zone's horror, but he could never tell a soul. Nicholas found Alexei alone in the field lab, sitting in the dark with a bottle of cheap vodka and a Geiger counter that had not clicked in hours.
You have something to say. Say it.
Nicholas laid the printed memo on the table. The words anomalous cellular activity faced up like a confession.
Where did you get this? This is a sealed document.
It does not matter. Is it true? Are the dead in that basement still alive?
Yes. They never died. The radiation did something to them, kept the tissue in a state between. The basement is a heart. It pumps something through the wolves, something that sees, something that wants.
Nicholas felt the room tilt. The research project was a lie. They were not scientists, but sentinels, watching the watchers.
The first victims are still in that basement. They wait for something, and the wolves are their hands, their eyes above ground.
Nicholas asked no more questions, because the answer was already in the map, in the footage, in the bow of that creature's head. In the dead hours after midnight, Nicholas returned to his bunk and opened the tablet. He loaded CAM 14C 0314 MP4 one last time. He advanced to the frame where the creature's forepaw wrapped around the camera lens. Then he enlarged it. There, on the pad above the thumb, a pattern emerged from the fur, a faded but unmistakable trefoil scar.
A brand. The dead don't just control them, they claim them.
He printed the still and circled the mark with a red pen. The proof was now as physical as a fingerprint.
This footage isn't evidence of a mutation. It's a property deed.
He opened the file menu and selected delete. A confirmation prompt asked if he was sure.
No one will ever know. Not because I can't share it, but because I won't.
He tapped confirm. The file vanished. Then he deleted the cloud backup, the encrypted copies, the frame stills. Nicholas closed the tablet and sat in the dark. The rules were no longer a cage. They were a wall, and behind it, the dead kept their silence. The next rotation came, and Nicholas walked his patrols like a man who had memorized the map of a minefield. He no longer asked questions. Early one morning, frost still clinging to the pines, he paused on a ridgeline and raised his binoculars. Across the valley, a group of wolves stood on a rocky outcropping. Four-legged, but their stillness was sentient, not animal. The largest one turned its head toward him. Then, in a motion too deliberate for instinct, it dipped its muzzle in a single, slow nod.
They know me now. I am part of their jurisdiction.
He did not flinch. Instead, he lowered the binoculars and inclined his own head a fraction of an inch. An acknowledgement.
They are not animals anymore. And I am not the same scientist who came here.
The wolves turned and vanished into the tree line, their patrol continuing. But the gesture remained a silent contract.
Rule 5. Allow them to observe. They are no longer the subject. I am.
The Geiger counter clicked its steady testimony beside him. But the only count that mattered now was the number of things in the zone that never truly died. Season after season, Nicholas walked the perimeter with a new stillness. The zone had given him a single, terrible answer. He no longer asked who they were reporting to. He already knew. The basement was a heart. The dead were its pulse. The wolves, its wandering hands. He would never open that door. He would guard it from the outside for life. The rules were no longer a burden. They were the only language he shared with the Watcher. Some answers are worse than the asking. Some truths seal themselves inside. The Geiger counter would click for decades. The real count was silent. He never shared the footage. He never spoke of the brand. Silence was the last rule. In the end, the upright animals walked on. Their reports delivered, purpose unchanged, and Nicholas, he just kept counting the living while the dead kept their silence.